All right, welcome back to Gen X DC. This is the place where we talk about all things DC in the 70s and 80s. I'm Spencer White, producer of the WGTS 91.9 morning show with Jerry and Blanca, and I'm joined, as always, by...
I'm Dan Lucota. I'm the former morning show producer at WMEL Radio. Someone asked me recently, what years and how long did you do that? 1992 to 2002. I was there 10 years, worked with Hardin Weaver,
Yes,
Tim
my
Grant,
favorite.
Andy Parks. Excellent, wonderful time.
Yep.
Rounded my education for sure.
Absolutely.
Well, today, as we tease with our last podcast, we're talking about restaurants.
Yep.
And growing up in this area, there were some staples that we really enjoyed, as kids and later on as adults. And the one that stands out to me, I thought of it the other day, is Gifford's Ice Cream.
Absolutely, Gifford's Ice Cream.
Gifford's Ice Cream there in Silver Spring.
Yep.
It was on George Avenue.
Yep.
It was right next to the WGAY building.
Yes, I remember.
The call letters are long since gone, but the GAY building, it was this cool, classic looking, like 1930s building. And the building's still there. You can still see it. Yep. I don't know what's in it now, but it's still there. And you'd go inside. It smelled like the cones. It smelled like ice cream. It had that aqua, bluish, greenish walls. It had the old style ice cream freezers that you could look into with the glass fronts. Right. It had the checkered, I believe it was black and white floor that was there. And it had that tin pressed ceiling that a lot of those places have down in Silver Spring. It was so cool looking. I knew a young lady from high school that I was kind of partial to at the time. I think she liked me too. And she worked there. So I would go in and she would hook me up with all sorts of scoops of ice cream.
All right.
Have you tried chocolate chip? No. She'd hook me up. So yes. And I won't say her name because I don't want to get her in trouble now because the ownership might come and still try to get her. But
well, to throw you back to the early 60s, so my dad went to Blair High School, which was right around the corner.
Yes.
And a lot of celebrities went to school with my dad. Goldie Hawn, Connie Chung, Sylvester Stallone, Ben Stein. Is it Nora Roberts, the writer? There's so many
Nora Roberts. Sure, he lives up in Upper Maryland.
So many different celebrities went to Blair. So they hung out there, I'm sure, at one time. I know my mom went to Coolidge High School, and they hung out at Giffords. So Giffords was definitely the place to be in the 60s, and it had that feel even in the 80s, 70s, and 80s of the 50s and 60s.
Yeah, it kept it going. So Sly was in there, huh?
Right. Maybe that's where he came up with Rocky.
What am I saying? Terrible impersonation. I'm sorry. All right. So now that I've spoken about ice cream and I'm really hungry for ice cream, what's one of yours?
Well, you kind of teased mine. You're wearing the shirt. Lido Restaurant, the original in Adelphi, opened in 1955. And the thing about Lido's, I mean, so many, it was the place to be in just outside Washington, a couple miles of Adelphi, a couple miles outside D.C.
Yes.
And, select Frank Sinatra liked Lido's Pizza when he would come to town. Not just the Redskins and Senators and all the area sports teams love Lido's. People that would come into town like Joe Namath, I think Mickey Mantle, others went there. So that it was definitely the place to be in those square pizza, because they didn't cut corners. That
was their love.
And I love their cheese. And you want to describe it more? My mouth's watering.
Yeah, and you see, it's that whole, the flavor of it. In the ovens, 1955 ovens. Now, Lido's has moved, and they took the ovens with them because those ovens are the essence of the flavor of that pizza. I don't want to slight any of the franchise.
Right, because I love them too.
That original sort of spanks the franchise because the crust puffs up a little differently. The sauce gets a little bit more smoky flavor in it with the cheese. Somehow, I really think it goes to the ovens, and there's a little twist on the recipe that the original has that doesn't.
Absolutely, yep.
Because for me, the franchise is kind of flat, where the original puffs up a little bit. It's so good. I know a quick story about the pepperoni. So the pepperoni on Lido Pizza is thicker.
Yep.
What the story goes, it's a story, I don't know, but it goes that the gentleman who was cutting it up back when they first started, he was told that you got all those reams of salami to cut up or pepperoni to cut up. When you're done cutting that up, you can go home. So he thought, well, if I cut them thicker, I can get out of here faster. So he cut them thicker. So now that's why they're pepperoni
all right
in the other places.
So what you're saying is laziness pays off.
Sometimes.
Right.
Sometimes it does.
Well, what's another one? What's another restaurant?
Well, since we're talking about pizza,
Yeah.
and there's a couple that stand out, one more than the other, but Shakey's Pizza was there at
Shakey's.
Randolph and
And
University.
you could watch them making the pizza. Remember
You could
that?
watch them making, they do
Yeah.
the whole toss up, and then they put the Parmesan cheese on
Right,
top
right.
of it. We didn't go there as often.
Uh-huh.
Lido and Pizza Oven was our other
Yes.
staple. Pizza Oven. There was one in Tacoma Park on Flower Avenue. There was one up in Wheaton behind University and Veers Mill back in there.
I went to the one on Riggs Road in Delphi.
In Adelphi was the other one we had hit too. Yes, and the guy who started the lead, or I should say the Pizza Oven, was attached somehow at one point to Lido Pizza. He went out on his own and created the Pizza Oven. It was good. We liked it, but Lido was just Lido.
He did a good job, but he didn't replicate Lido's, and that's why you don't see as many pizza ovens today.
There's one left.
The one. Where is
it? At Riverdale Road.
Right where I thought. Okay, cool.
Yeah, that was the original one, and it's still there. I was making a run downtown recently, and I glanced over and I could see the Pizza Oven sign. I was like, yes. Okay. I need to get one, because the gentleman that runs that, the original guy, I keep wondering, when will he just say, I'm done? It's cool to go in there. You need to go in there. He's got all sorts of hats and stuff in there. It's nostalgia. It takes you back to before we were born. It's really cool. So I've rambled on about pizza now. What's another one from you?
So do you remember the hot shops?
Oh, yes.
So the hot shops, it actually, so I guess the guy at Marriott, J.W. Marriott, was coming through D.C. in the early 20s, and he noticed that everybody in D.C. was, the ice cream stands were selling out of root beer. They were selling out of ice cream. So he opened 9 A&W root beer stands in D.C. in the late 20s, and it took off, and they were hot shops, and it just kept getting bigger and bigger, and eventually it became a drive-in place, kind of if you ever watch Happy Days, where you got actually Sonic nowadays, where you can come and pull in, and the girls on roller skates will come and take your order. So, but the thing that they were known for, the hot shop was really known for the Mighty Mo,
which was
their version of the Big Mac or the Whopper, and just had an awesome taste to it.
Oh, man. And they had French fries with it and milkshakes.
That's right.
I remember getting the milkshakes. I like strawberry milkshakes.
Me too.
That was good stuff. Oh,
absolutely. Well, what about you? What's another one?
Another one that stands out to me, and I'm sorry, everyone, I'm kind of stuck in Adelphi right now. There was a McDonald's that was down on University Boulevard, just almost in the same shopping center as Lido. It's still there. It was across the street from, there was a Toys R Us, right across the street. There was a Pappy's Chicken across the street.
I remember Pappy's.
Oh, Pappy's, that was good too. But the McDonald's, it has to be one of the oldest in the area, because when I was a kid, it seemed, that had been there forever. My brother, who's older than me, said it was there when he was a little guy. So, and then the sign used to say, right now it says billions and billions served. They used to be counting it out. So it'd be like, 200,000 served or 400,000 served. I can remember it being in those numbers, not being the billions and billions or even in the millions. So it really stands out to me. But it was a cool, before they remodeled it probably 20 times since I was a kid, but it had that old feel, and it had the old arches going over it.
Right.
Like going back to now, that nostalgia style they got going now. So yeah, that has to be. So it was a Big Mac or a fish sandwich for me with the French fries and a chocolate milkshake.
And I remember that McDonald's well, definitely.
It was so good. And there was, a bunch in the area, of course. That one always stood out. It's like one of the older ones. It was always there.
Yeah, it was retro at the time.
It was retro, and retro wasn't retro. Right. All right, so I've rambled on about McDonald's. What's another one?
So I mentioned earlier that Gifford's Ice Cream was kind of like the hangout for Blair High School for a while.
Yes.
Well, Bob's Big Boys, at least the one in Hillendale, was the hangout for High Point, Springbrook, and a number of other schools. And for those of you that don't know, I guess we had Bob's Big Boys in our area. I guess they have Shoney's down south, and maybe something else out west. I don't know. But it was, just like in the Austin Powers TV series or movie series, where the guy's holding the hamburger,
floating by.
They had one outside Big Boys, but I just remember going there. I love the salad bar. I love their fudge cake.
They had the turnstile with the desserts in it.
Yes. Oh, yeah. I love stuff like the fudge ice cream cake.
Oh man,
It was so good.
they had a coconut cream cake
They
too.
had everything. No, but you're making me really think about that because I love looking at that little thing go
Yeah,
around.
going around was like hypnotic.
Yeah.
We were only so high. Yeah,
But I'm germ phobic, and I didn't want
yeah,
anything that was actually on there. I wanted them to bring me something from the back. So,
well, especially today. That
but a
thing's
quick
probably
story.
here.
Speaking of High Point, the class of '83. This is before my time. Apparently, for their senior prank, and don't do this at home, kids. Not a good idea. They went and took they stole the Bob's Big Boy, took it to High Point, and painted it golden blue, the school colors.
Colors, yeah.
So I guess somehow Big Boys got wind of this, and they just said, just go ahead and keep it. And I think
good advertising for him. You got
it was until 1984 when the class of '84 put it on top of the roof and knocked it off, and it just splattered all over the place.
Can you imagine what that's worth today?
Oh man, that would be incredible to have a Bob's Big Boys in your house.
Oh, that'd be great in my garage. I got like
I do. You know what? Somewhere I have an old Bob's Big Boy penny bank.
Okay.
It's probably from the late '70s, early '80s.
Sad. That's got to be. That's nostalgia. Bob's Big Boy. That was cool.
Yes.
Turkey, open-faced turkey sandwich. That was my staple at those places like Bob's Big Boy, Howard Johnson. I was getting an open-faced turkey sandwich with the mashed potatoes and gravy.
That's right.
You can't go wrong with that.
Yep.
So
well, I'm really hungry, man. I'm starving right now. But as always, it's great talking to you about Washington, D.C. and now we did talk a lot about Adelphi, okay?
Yeah, we did.
You mentioned, we're stuck in Adelphi. What other place would you rather be stuck in than Adelphi, Maryland, right?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, this area in general, the DMV, I mean, you think of all the places now you can eat. There's wonderful places to eat now. I'm starting new traditions. I mean, my daughters have places that were here when they were kids that weren't here when we were kids. So they have their own attachment to different places that are here. And you get into DC, you think of some of the cool places down there that are there now. Like
Old Ebbitt's Grill.
Old Ebbitt's Grill. I got a great story about that. I'll share that one time. Another time. But, you have DuPont has some wonderful restaurants in it. Wonderful restaurants there. Adams Morgan has some great restaurants. Georgetown.
Absolutely. The whole area does. This is the greatest area in the world. If you don't live in D.C. area, you should move here.
You should. Come this way. We have that melting pot of a lot of different cultures.
Absolutely.
So, and you can attest to this. When we were kids, there were restaurants that typically you would not find in other places in this country.
Oh, yeah.
You had Chinese food. You had Indian food. We had a large Indian community here. You had Thai food. You had a lot of different foods that I would have never come across being in a small town somewhere until I went to a bigger town like DC.
Right. It's funny when I've gone to small towns and I'm like, wait a minute, where's your restaurants? There's no. It's good that I like a very simple menu, and I'm basically Italian food, pretty much American Italian, maybe some Chinese, but I don't like trying things, so it doesn't matter to me. But I know a lot of people when they go out of the Washington area and they go to another place, they're looking for that food.
Yep. And our viewers and listeners, watchers, put in our comments what food Spencer needs to try.
Oh man.
let's
Lido Pizza, try it again.
Let's get Spencer to try something. Something. Oh boy. Now
all right, well, next time, what are we going to talk about?
When we were at Lido's a while back, we were chatting about different topics and venues came up. What do you think? Should we talk about venues next time?
Sure. You mean like Cole Fieldhouse, that type of venue?
Yes, Captain.
Absolutely. And we can talk about this. I'll talk about the sports, and you can talk about Bruce Springsteen and anybody else that have gone to these famous reasons. Beatles, there's a lot. Look, our area has a lot of historic things. I can't wait to talk to you about that.
I'm sure our folks know out there, but the Beatles, there's a connection to DC that is historic.
Absolutely.
With the Beatles. So
that's the next episode of Gen X DC.
Sounds
Thanks
good.
for joining us.
Always a pleasure, my friend. Always a pleasure.